Okay, so this is it, girls and boys. Are you ready to hear about Fact for Fun winner? Yeah? Yay, money. So for those who are new in Global Fact 5, the IFCN needs to explain that we have a super cool award that you should look for next year. You should apply to get that money. Come on in. Come on in. You can eat. It is a 5K grant. Last year, it was given to Libération, and Pauline got very rich and gave us Tech News, and it ended up being like the seed for Fact Check EU. And well, we all saw that on-demand fact-checking service. And right now, we have these guys here, Lee from Africa Tech and Paul McNally from Volume. They are the winners of this year's edition, and they are going to work for the next 12 months on this wonderful, how can I say that? It is a audio note for
like a voice note show.
Voice note show for WhatsApp. It has this cool name. It's What's Crap on WhatsApp, right? I just wanted to thank again our panelists, the ones that helped us find these guys and in their wonderful project. Mark Stansel is in the room, and he read a lot of papers. I mean, we all went through 25 different applications, and we had 10 people, 10 teams as finalists. Mark did read a lot. Mariano Blechnan from Argentina read 2. Laura Owen from the NEMA Journalism Lab. Mariana Santos from Chicas Poderosas in Portugal. Janine Warner from Sembra Media, and helped us doing that. So we graded all the projects in 6 categories. We had 6 questions, and we had to give grades from 1 to 3, and so we had to add them all. And these guys got over 60 points, so they are very good. And so I'm very glad and very, very happy to be here just to present Lee and Paul. So you have the stage for you. And congratulations again. You have 5K to destroy this information in WhatsApp. Just kill it. 50K. 50K. I'm sorry, 50K. Destroy this information in WhatsApp.
Okay, good afternoon, fact checkers of the world. As Christina mentioned, my name is Lee, and I'm with Paul. We will introduce ourselves shortly, but welcome to WhatsApp. What's Crap on WhatsApp? We call it WCW for short. I also want to reassure you that that's not how we had envisaged it as the emoji as shaping up. No pun intended, but we found that it has some sort of rhyme. So Paul will explain essentially how that idea came about. But so what's crap on WhatsApp? Essentially, one, I'll start with the newest aspect of it, is that it is the 2019 winner of the IFCN Fact Forward Innovation Fund, and that comes with some small pocket change of $50,000. Thank you, FCN. But also, more practically, it is a voice note show that is focused on debunking the worst information by asking users to forward to us the most egregious examples they find of misinformation on WhatsApp. We then use that to produce a voice note show that we then share to our broadcast lists, and we'll share with you shortly how the reception has been. But I think you should meet your innovators right now. I'll ask Paul to tell us about Volume Africa and why they're such brilliant partners for what we are doing with What's Crap on WhatsApp.
Thanks, Lee. Yeah, Volume is a startup. I think we have should I put these. Is that right? Oh. Volume is a startup that operates around audio. So we help community radio stations produce better news. We work around producing podcasts, as well as developing innovative ways to tell good stories through audio. And we're going to talk a little bit later about how we developed What's Crap on WhatsApp. But first, let Lee just introduce Africa Check as well.
Yeah, so Africa Check, welcome to Africa from Africa Check. So we've been around pretty much 7 years in country. In terms of the part of an organization, pretty young, but in terms of fact-checking, we might be described as teenagers. So started just two stuff in 2012, and now we're growing on 30 and still growing. So we've got 4 offices. We work in Nigeria, we work in South Africa, we work in Kenya, and also in Senegal. Obviously, I'm a member of the IFCA to have won this award, and we have an 8-point coded rating system that is ranges from correct all the way to incorrect and everything in between.
So how we started was I was obsessed with this idea that voice notes in WhatsApp could be used as a podcasting mechanism. I do a lot of work in community radio and with sort of semi-rural communities. And there's, when you look at what podcasting is doing as it's growing, it's sort of growing within a very elite space still, right? So I became obsessed with this idea that, you don't need iTunes, you don't need SoundCloud, you don't need all these things that are quite separate from people that are still listening to the radio in huge numbers, but they're not listening to anything, not really any digital audio. And streaming radio in South Africa hasn't really taken off in the way that people thought it might. So I was obsessed with this idea that, okay, so WhatsApp is this hugely penetrative platform, especially in South Africa. And you can use this mechanism that they've got, this voice note ability to transmit a podcast, essentially. And then this combined with the fact that I get a lot of quite horrendous WhatsApp messages through people that have emigrated from South Africa to the UK. If anyone is aware of, people that emigrate and then they feel that they have to bash the country that they've emigrated from, it's a horrible phenomenon. So I get a lot of, sort of through groups, I get a lot of like horrible crime kind of misinformation on WhatsApp that everyone within my family group is very upset that certain people are distributing this. So it felt like the combination of this podcast idea on WhatsApp and the fact that WhatsApp is just brimming with this ridiculous amount of content felt like this is something that we could really combine into something exciting. So I went to Africa Check and explained this, and we started talking about how do we get into these areas. Like people were talking about a little bit this morning, that WhatsApp is this closed group, and you want to, you want it to work both ways. You want to extract what is in WhatsApp and find out what is upsetting people, essentially, and then you create this radio show around this debunking of these ideas and give it back to them. Because that was the exciting idea. The exciting idea is that you've created this 5-minute radio show that's shareable as a voice note. But then the thing is it also acts as a rebuke, right? So that means if one of your family members sends you something that is then that is actually debunked in the show, you can just forward the show to them, and that's like an explanation to them. So essentially, that's how we sort of started it. And then the combination of working with Africa Check, and then we brought together this idea of putting the show together.
So yeah, sorry, just before Paul plays, he's been too modest. He had this epiphany when he was on a beach in the Bahamas. So, yeah, but I think how is it different from from other work that a lot of you have been doing around WhatsApp? I think let's hear the show and see what we think is a differentiator for it.
It's 3 p.m. on the first Friday of the month, which means you're getting an episode of What's Crap on WhatsApp, the show that debunks all the crap found in your WhatsApp groups. It's brought to you by Africa Check and Volume. I'm Paul McNally from Volume.
And I'm Kate Wilkinson from Africa Check. Today we're debunking 4 viral stories on WhatsApp.
Are criminals handing out key holders with trackers in them?
Did 4 children die when they drank cough syrup mixed with milk?
Will South African prisoners get a bonus when they finish jail? Is South African actress Charlize Theron a secret ANC funder?
Hundreds of people have sent us viral WhatsApp messages for us to look at, and you could do the same. If you want your family and friends to get this show, give them our new number, 082 709 3527.
That's 082 709 3527. Also, stay tuned until the end of the show for an exciting announcement.
Just a spoiler, we won an award. Okay, Kate, I'm really excited, obviously, for our Charlize Theron story, but what are we looking at first?
Apparently, Paul, criminals are handing out key holders with embedded trackers in them, and then they're following people home.
Okay, this sounds ridiculous and quite elaborate for criminals to do.
It is, and it's also a hoax. It's been debunked a number of times in many different countries, like the UK, Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, and even here in South Africa. The police spokesperson has said that they did not release a warning about this, but she did urge people just to remain vigilant about their safety.
So it's crap then?
Completely crap.
Okay, up next, a widely shared message claims that a mother killed her 4 children after giving them milk mixed with cough syrup. Now, I've never even thought to mix milk and cough syrup together, but 7 people have sent us this message to check.
And What's Crap on WhatsApp subscriber Lusani asked us to look into it.
Good day, my name is Lusana Mufokeng. I'm asking for a request for you to check out the message that has been doing rounds on the WhatsApp groups regarding the mixing milk with the cough syrups and any other medicine. How true is that?
Okay, now, I don't want to be flippant about this, but did 4 children really die?
So the story is pretty scary, and it's been doing the rounds for a while now, but we've been able to find no credible reports of 4 children dying because they drank a mixture of milk and cough syrup.
So there have been no reported deaths?
We couldn't find anything, Paul, and we also spoke to a doctor who told us the following.
I'm Dr. Zaida Baba. I'm a family physician and I practice at Dr. Baba Aesthetics in Bedfordview and in Rosebank. So it doesn't actually become poisonous to you if it's mixed with milk. However, what milk can do to some medication, and not just cough syrups, is that the calcium in the milk can sometimes change the absorption pattern of the way the medication is being absorbed in the system. So it doesn't become poisonous. You're not going to die if you drink the cough syrup with the milk, but you may not get the full benefit from the medication that you're drinking because of what the milk does to the absorptive potential of that medication.
Next, we're looking at a startling story about prisoners in South Africa. A widely shared message claims that prisoners are getting a monthly salary while in jail of between 3,000 and 10,000 rand, depending on the job they're doing in prison.
The message, which is a screenshot from Facebook, also said that they would get a bonus once they had completed their sentences, and this was meant to help them start off in life after jail.
Now, I know prisoners can earn a gratuity in prison for doing jobs like maintenance and cooking, but the amounts here, it has to be crap.
Absolutely. They can use the gratuity to buy things in the tuck shop, but they are not getting a bonus when they leave jail. It's 100% false.
Our last debunk has to do with famous South African actress Charlize Theron. A viral image claims that she has been funding the ruling African National Congress Party and the opposition, the Economic Freedom Fighters, so kind of hedging her bets on both parties.
This story was debunked by AFP fact-checker Tendai Dube, and this is what she had to say about the picture, which supposedly showed Charlize Theron wearing a T-shirt with Julius Malema's face on it.
The image of Charlize Theron is misleading. The image was doctored. The original picture was part of Charlize Theron's campaign work against HIV. In the meme, though, her T-shirt was digitally altered to replace the logo of her Africa Outreach Project with a picture of Julius Malema of the EFF. And the sign she's carrying has been replaced with a black power fist instead of the HIV message that she had originally.
There's also no evidence that she has bankrolled the ANC.
When AFP reached out to ANC spokesman Dakota Legota, he told us that he had inquired with the party's Treasurer General, Paul Mashatile, and the ANC Women's League, and they were both unaware of the donations mentioned in the meme. We also contacted the EFF, and we're yet to receive a response.
Okay, so it's crap that Charlize Theron is funding both political parties.
Complete crap. We spoke to Charlize Theron's publicist, and she told us that the pictures were, in her words, 100% doctored. She also said that Charlize has never made any donations to the ANC or the EFF.
Now remember, if you received this message, forward this episode of the show to set the record straight. Right, our show has moved to a new number. 082 709 3527. That's 08.
Okay, so that is the essence of it. And probably you can hear a few elements there, collaboration. We spoke to experts. We had people actually forward elements of misinformation to us for us to check. So what has been the actual public reaction in one word? Overwhelming. Paul has been doing a lot of media engagements, and he tells me he can no longer stroll to his convenience store in peace. He has to sign autographs on the way, but I'll let you get a sense of his media appearance.
So yeah, our public reaction's been really good, and it's sort of spoken to the fact that we've really hit on something that's very cathartic. And the more that I think about it, the more I think it's got to do with the fact that WhatsApp, because it's personal and a person-to-person kind of communication, you are worried about the fact that the person who sent it to you might believe what they're giving you, right? It's not like a news outlet which feels very distant. Like WhatsApp's, especially if you're in a group and someone sent it to you, you kind of feel this need to kind of a personal connection with how it's being got to you. And that's why you might believe it, but that's also why you feel worried if you don't believe it. And I think what's been encouraging about how people have responded and how many people have, how much people have said they've liked the show is the fact that people are not blindly consuming this content as much as we might think. People are, obviously some people are, but at the same time, there's a good quantity of people that are getting eyeballs on this content, and they still realize that it's not true, and they want to do something about it. And that's what's been really encouraging.
So yes, we've done 3 shows so far. But we decided to float a trial balloon to see if there was interest. So we sent out the first tweet asking users or anybody who comes across misinformation to forward it to us. Initially, we asked people to tweet it to us, and then almost as an afterthought, we add us on WhatsApp and forward your contributions to us. Within 2 days of that, we already had 300 people adding us to their contact list. And we thought, wait a moment, we actually are onto something here, but we don't know what. So we've been covered by the main media houses. Pretty much anyone who is anyone in terms of the media space in South Africa. Next slide. So yeah, pretty much the reporting has been we have the silver bullet for fighting misinformation on WhatsApp. We do not have any such thing. We want to assure you, everyone, we are simply just trying to different things to see if anything will work. Pretty much almost like shooting bullets in the dark and hoping something does come down. But yeah, so we've got a lot of media coverage. And also the most important thing, especially for us in fact-checking, is how have the users received it? It's one thing to have coverage in the media, but a lot of people think we are better than sliced bread. But I think a lot of it has been overwhelmingly positive. But I think I want to focus on the long one at the top. And at the very last sentence, this user says, I am sharing your number and website with my contacts each time I debunk a hoax. So how is that for the behavior of change theory and for the potential for scalability? So I think that is pretty much of a gold standard for fact-checking, that we are able to scale what we do, the work we do.
So
yes.
Sorry, go.
Okay, please. The question then is, why did our voice note show strike such a nerve in South Africa? And here's the reason why. Just 2 weeks ago, the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism released their digital news consumption survey, which was of about 75,000 people in 38 countries. And for the first time, South Africa was included. 75,000 is a good sample because pretty much as a fact checker, you want more people who are sampled. And sure, it is an online sample, and that does raise a flag in terms of that there are some people who might be excluded, people who are not online, people in rural areas, but it's pretty much the most recent data we have on news consumption in South Africa. And there were some 2-3 startling statistics about news consumption in South Africa. One is South Africa was the one country that was identified as using WhatsApp more for general purposes than Facebook. So 88% of South Africans use WhatsApp, as opposed to 80% who use Facebook for any general purpose. So that's building a picture. But also, South Africa was the one country of the 38 countries that were sampled where 49% say they use WhatsApp as their primary platform for news consumption and news discussion. So that starts telling you people are actually shifting to using WhatsApp to consume the news. But also 70%, just about pretty much behind just the same amount in Brazil, say they are concerned about their ability to tell fake news or rather false news, misinformation from real news. So then that tells us there is a lot of usage of WhatsApp and there's a lot of concern about the information that is flowing within that channel.
And I don't know if this is true in every country, but in South Africa, you get WhatsApp bundles. So you basically get free WhatsApp. Everything that goes through WhatsApp is free if you pay a set rate. And the providers have it down to about R2 a day. So people buy daily packages to use WhatsApp. And data is incredibly expensive in South Africa in general. So that means if you send audio or video, you don't get calls, but you get audio and video through the WhatsApp platform, and then you've already paid for it for your day with your R2. And you can imagine that in a market which is very poor, and also data is very expensive, this is not something that's going to go away anytime soon.
In fact, one thing one user said was that they simply use their data just to go onto social media. They don't go online to fact check. So this was the slide I was talking about, the concern about how misinformation plays in the internet. South Africa is ranked third here. Just of course, Brazil is a runaway winner on that. But yeah. So yeah, currently we have about 1,500 people on our broadcast list, and this number is growing. We've actually had to go slow on it because we discovered we might promise or rather overpromise because there's a lot of interest in what we're doing. So then we are trying to wrap our head around how is the best way to present this show to much more, a bigger number of people than just the people who've added us to their to their contacts. What we do is we log these messages into themes. I'm going to mention later how we're using this, or rather the import of this, but we've categorized what we are getting in various themes, politics, religion, and so we've been logging in hundreds of messages so far. We have someone who does that every morning, and essentially we are going to see how we can tap this information. I'll give more, some more comments on how we think this is going to be significant, at least for the African continent.
Yeah, and what's exciting is that you can actually see how pervasive something is by the amount of times it's being forwarded to us, right? So if people keep asking us to fact check it, we can get a good barometer of what we actually should include in the show. And it's quite an exciting sort of feedback mechanism on that. So there's some challenges, as you can imagine. Basically, the show is still, by design, it's built into WhatsApp, and the idea is to be an antidote to that, but at the same time, it's also bound by the bubbles that WhatsApp works within. So you're still asking people to share, but obviously people are going to share within their groups, and you need to find different starting points to push the show out on. You can't just keep pushing it out into the same type of people and expecting them to share it among their people. It's never going to break out. So that's the big challenge. I mean, from the media exposure that we've had and from the feedback that we're still in quite a certain subset of South African society. And I think the way that we're going to be able to break out of this is to be able to produce it in a different language. I think that would really be something that would help navigate it through the community radio network that Volume works with. And that would help kind of break it up a little bit. The other things is the restrictions imposed by the platform, like WhatsApp wants to be a person-to-person communication tool, and by design, by something like this, if it's a WhatsApp newsletter or if it's a voice note show, this is not a person-to-person communication anymore, right? So it's all very up in the air. Like, I think WhatsApp have said that they're going to do certain things on the 7th of December, which is this very specific date that might restrict certain things that like certain projects, but we're gonna, and that's something that you just have to navigate. Like at the beginning of this, people talk about if you want to make your own app or if you want to hitch your carriage to something like Facebook or WhatsApp or any other kind of platform. And obviously there's advantages to doing that, but the disadvantages is essentially you are beholden to that they can change certain things and your whole thing disintegrates, right? And that's the nature of getting the advantage of 1.5 billion users that you don't have to scrape around for. They're already using your distribution service. So that's something that we are very aware of and trying to navigate. And also, like Lee said, managing expectations. Yeah, and finally, going forward, I mentioned sort of other languages, but also we're looking at other countries. But also the other thing is and this sort of feeds into this idea of what WhatsApp might restrict, but we want to build a dedicated channel. So that would mean like, essentially it's a number to the user. It still operates like a WhatsApp number, but there's a built-in back-end chatbot. So you're able to then interact with the channel in a way that's much more informative for the user, but also really interesting for us in the fact that you can submit certain claims to the same number. You can categorize it. You can ask for the show in different languages. You can ask for it, if we do different sort of editions. It just creates almost like the best way to think about it is a channel which then you can communicate with, but you're communicating with a bot essentially on WhatsApp. Certain people are doing this. Someone in South Africa is doing it to great success. It helps you manage your subscriptions much better. It manages your flow of users and information about those users. But that's something that we're really looking forward to getting into, especially with now this fund that we've got.
Yeah, so I think probably I might mention that, okay, we think it's going to be quite useful for fact-checking organizations on the continent because you see the way we do it is then we're able to tell what is of importance or what is of most concern to our users. And then we can see how to tackle that misinformation. But the thing is, for up to now, most of the research that has been about misinformation has tended to be quite Western-centric. A lot of it is focused on Europe, North America, and we don't pretty much know if it's the same way it plays out on the African continent. There's a lot of chatter say misinformation may have tilted the election, say in Donald Trump's favor, or it was a factor in Brexit, but we don't know if it is the same, it had the same effect in elections in Kenya, in Nigeria, in South Africa. So we think this is going to be our contribution also to understanding how misinformation plays in the African space, and also, we contribute to the growing body of knowledge around misinformation. So in that aspect, I think Africa is a country because we think misinformation does play differently in this region as opposed to global north, if I may call it that way.
So yeah.
Thank you.
So please put your hands together to these guys. Yeah, you deserve that. I'm just gonna say it again. It is 50K grant, yeah, just gonna do it correctly. And I want to add something. These are our local partners that I really want to thank you. You have a great country. We are just completely falling in love with Cape Town, right, people? And yeah, it's a great city. It is. Yeah, and we have like 5 minutes for Q&A. I would have there's a hand up there, right there. Can we have a mic going all the way there? It is a wonderful project. I'm completely falling in love with it too. Congratulations. Can we have that in Portuguese?
Thank you so much. This is fantastic. My question is how fast this process can happen during elections, the voting days, or civic unrest events. How fast this format can happen in local languages?
Probably. Maybe I could ask Paul to mention about the production process, so that that gives you a rough idea of how fast we can get it out.
Yeah, it's a good question. We originally thought about this because South Africa had an election earlier this year. We kind of thought about it as being an election-based thing initially. That was the sort of idea. That didn't happen. But, I mean, the turnaround time gets quicker and quicker. I mean, obviously, you've got the fact-checking side of things and, like, working through that. And actually, someone, I don't know where he is, Ray, gave me some constructive criticism earlier today about how it should be, we should kind of work at closing that gap between, because obviously what you're trying to do is the spread of something. And the quicker that you can get into that as something like this has just been created and now we're debunking it and it can almost fight alongside it, I think is really important. The thing that you sort of sit up against is the sort of audio production time. And obviously we're still doing that. I mean, it's not anything close to video and one of the projects that we saw earlier, but it still takes time to script and to do it in a way that you kind of want to be proud of. But that is getting shorter. I mean, the time to do that is getting quicker and quicker, and there's sort of ways that we're trying to think about it once we've built a following of like sort of the main show, that maybe there's something of doing smaller episodes that kind of just debunk one specific thing, like in certain cases like you mentioned.
And I think how we code then allows us to know what to focus on quickly. So you see a lot of information around a certain topic is coming in, then we are able to focus on that quickly.
One more question? Can I go?
Okay.
Can I go? Can I do one?
I think one there.
Yeah, one? Yeah, Clara, go. I can do it. I go faster.
Gracias. I wanted to ask you, the platform that you said you're building, the bot, the bot that you said you are building within WhatsApp, like to answer through WhatsApp. Did you guys get permission of WhatsApp to do that, or are you doing it?
So they have third parties. So there's sort of third parties that you subscribe to, and then therefore you build it with them. So the one that we're probably going to go through, they're called Messenger people. And they have a relationship with WhatsApp, and you basically leverage that relationship that they have.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, but also we've been having a few discussions offline with WhatsApp. I'm sure they're in the room, and we're saying, okay, we've got all these restrictions you've placed on your product. Do you think you can relax for people who want to use it for good without, getting in the way of the core values of your application?
And my question very quickly, how can you measure impact? How will you measure the success of the voice note?
Well, first we have to check in with you every 6 months, so we suspect.
Okay.
Yes. But I think. Okay, cool.
Generally, traditionally when we do the fact-check stories, we try to present with the evidence to the reader or to the viewer. In this case, do you just hope that people are going to believe you because there is nothing that you can show them?
Well, we have thought about pointing people. We can point. We didn't do it specifically in that audio, but we're thinking about pointing people to articles and to online content which shows how the check was made, right? So there is sort of a credibility, and that's the issue, right? You are fighting against a source that maybe people find is more credible than you, right? That's what you mean, right? So, I mean, that's sort of a trust and a branding exercise, but also at the same time, we're hoping that we can point people in the audio to online materials that allows them to check how the check was done. Does that make sense? And also to measure impact, it is difficult because it's, WhatsApp is closed and you're not getting lovely analytics like you would with a podcast. But the thing is what's interesting is we get a number of subscribers. So that's the one thing is subscribers, and obviously that's a bare. And what's nice about that is that's a bare minimum of how many people are listening, because that's the first wave. But we have actually spotted the show being shared in certain groups. So it's almost like that thing of like once you start to see it spreading around the ecosystem, and especially once it gets, people say with these kinds of things in WhatsApp is once it comes back to you, and someone shares it to you unknowing you were the person who made it, then that's kind of, it's gone through a huge amount of shares to get back to you.
Yeah. So we have to finish this. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Cool.
Congratulations again.
Thanks so much.